Getting hit multiple times coming out of that bike section. More drivers coming to blows.
Well, hello and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back here to Slow Motion Broadcasting, and welcome back to the Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors. This is round number 6 of this season, coming to you today from Mugello. My name is Ron Maunz. Alongside me in the commentary booth is Charles Boshell. Guido Marzucchi is our producer for today's broadcast. Well, Charles, for the first time, it feels like here in the Spec Racer Fords, we head off to a track that is a gem of global motorsports, Mugello. It's a shame that this place gets a bad rep because Formula One came here back in the time where you could get dirty air from a car 5 miles away, because this track is a stunner. I remember falling in love with it as a kid, playing on Forza Motorsport 4 coming back from elementary school. But this place, even today, is one that I love to cover and I love to drive around. There's really nothing like this place in the world. It is a true driver's track.
It really is, Ron, and it's one of those old school tracks where, you know, they didn't do a lot to kind of shape this track. They just kind of followed the natural terrain, and we're in a hilly section of northern Tuscany. and it just flows really nicely. There's a lot of elevation changes on this track, not a lot of flat parts, so we're going to have some difficulties, I believe, in some of our harder braking zones, trying to get these cars slowed down without having some brake lockups. And I'm really looking forward to this race. It is a classic Italian track. It's like getting out there in your old Ferrari 308 and tooling around. It's just going to be a fun day.
Yeah, it's going to be a super fun day for us here on the broadcast as well. We've had a lot of fun throughout this campaign on some very interesting tracks. Snetterton, Barcelona, Okayama, Coda, the Nordschleife last time at Mugello here today. Summit Point's going to be the next round of the championship, and that's already going to be broadcasted here on SMB. Speaking of, today's broadcast is brought to you by Mr. Joshua Wilkie, so make sure you don't swear. Not only is he the one that's paying us, he's the one making this broadcast possible as well. But we're at the midpoint of this season, round number 6, so probably is a good idea for us to take a quick little gander at those championship point standings as we head off into the final race of this first half. We'll start off with Spec 1, where Nathaniel Schramm is your championship points leader. 501 points is his current tally. He's been consistently quick, consistently contending for the wins, and you could say that about his entire tenure here in the Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors, but more so this season, he has brought the heat. Jason Green is slotted in P2. Really the only other driver that's been just as punchy, consistently punchy, that is, as Nathaniel Schramm. Dirk Braun, who's really had a under-the-radar run so far this season, is slotted in third with Aleix Pleva, Joshua Justice, Marco Pinero, Scott Russell, Jake Williams, Maurizio Nazelli, and Jason Dunnington completing your top 10 in Spec 1. We'll take a look now at Spec 2, where Hugh Simpkins is your current championship points leader over there. Much tighter gap here in the Spec 2 categories. It's only 10 between he and Phil Berry in second. Paul Jackson is in third, our very own Mr. Joshua Wilkie, or as Guido wants us to call him, what was it, the pronunciation that we agreed on? Wilchie, yeah, there we go, Wilchie. So thank you, Guido Marzucchi, in the production truck for that. He's currently fourth in the Spec 2 points. We have a fun time always here on SMB. Steve Saunders, Jeff Jacobson, Dennis Furia, Joachim Osbeck, Matt Thompson, and Adam Bradshaw round out your top 10. And Charles, how about you gun us through the Masters category?
Yeah, absolutely. Antonio Reese currently leads the Masters with 350 points. Tom Gradwell in second, 301. Chris Thorpe in third. Brad Cathcart, Chris Murakami round out your top 5. Antonio's really had some good runs as of late, stretched that point gap out, but you see a lot of contenders there and some really fast racers down that list. Rich Meesters in sixth, as well as Jorg Monty in seventh. Always a threat to compete for that Masters class victory, those two. So, yeah, it's just we're still ramping up. We're about midway through the season, and still pretty tight points battle there in the Masters class.
Yeah, super tight in this category. It's always competitive in this field, whether it be in Spec 1, Spec 2, or the Masters class. I want to thank everybody in the YouTube chat, including Jörg Monty, who's still trying to get his sim rig repaired. The Schrammers out in full force, as they usually are. But we've got a pretty stacked field of drivers hitting the racetrack here in this qualifying session that we are currently getting into the final 5 minutes of. 29 drivers looking to set the best lap time that they can. Here's how it stands currently. Nathaniel Schramm is your current provisional pole sitter. Sul El-Shatwi is set to join him on the front row right now. Maurizio Nazelli is in third. Aleix Pleva is in fourth. Dirk Braun completes your overall top 5. Your entirety of the top 8 is made up exclusively of Spec 1 drivers. Phil Berry, your current provisional pole sitter as it stands at the moment here in the Spec 2 class. Never mind, Aleix Pleva just jumped up to the pole at a 2:04.009. Wasn't expecting that lap time. He's been super quick throughout the season. And Antonio Reese rounds out your top 10 current pole sitter in the Masters category. We're following Josh Wilkie as he heads his way around the final turn, and considering we're racing in his hometown, pretty much in his backyard, we defer the track guide here for this broadcast off to our pal Guido.
Benvenuti in Toscana all'Autodromo Internazionale del Mugello. Andiamo a fare un giro a bordo con Joshua Wilkie in questo bellissimo circuito incastonato tra le colline toscane. Lunghissimo rettilineo di partenza, un saliscendi che porta giù verso la curva 1, la curva San Donato. Joshua si sposta probabilmente per far passare qualcuno, ma no, la curva 1, la curva San Donato, che è il punto più lento del tracciato, e poi a salire verso l'alto ce la farà a fare un giro? Non lo sappiamo. Verso curva 2 e curva 3. che sono Luco e Poggio Secco. Questa destra-sinistra che poi dopo un breve allungo porta a curva 4 e curva 5, Materassi e Borgo San Lorenzo. Ancora un breve allungo, si arriva vicini al punto più alto del tracciato e si va giù in picchiata. Ancora una destra-sinistra da fare velocissima, da tagliare tutta Casanova e Savelli, per poi andare nel punto più bello di questo circuito, le due curve dell'arrabbiata, arrabbiata 1 e arrabbiata 2. Con queste macchine non si può fare in pieno, ma le Formula 1 quando sono state qua nel 2020 e nel 2021 le facevano full gas ed era impressionante. Arriviamo nel punto più alto del tracciato che ci porta verso un'altra destra-sinistra, Scarperia e poi Palagio. Breve allungo per il tornante del Correntaio, un tornante molto largo da affrontare molto bene, è molto facile perdere il posteriore in questa curva, quindi è importante prestare molta attenzione. Ultima chicane, Biondetti 1 e Biondetti 2, sinistra-destra, qui si può tagliare tanto perché iRacing è molto di manica larga con i track limits in questo circuito, e poi l'ultimo allungo verso l'ultima curva, un curvone verso sinistra, la Bucine da fare bene, bisogna portare più velocità possibile nel lunghissimo rettilineo finale, tutta la velocità che si può per poi arrivare sulla linea del traguardo qua al Mugello.
How the hell do we follow that?
I feel so much more cultured now.
Yeah, that's the most amount of culture I've experienced in quite a long time. So I always love giving the track guides there to Guido. That was absolutely awesome there. But in the final few moments here of qualifying right now, Josh, and always not Josh. Josh is in his final moments of qualifying. Charles, we're here in the booth for the final minutes. See, I was too tuned in for the Formula V show yesterday. But Charles, we're heading into the final few moments here of qualifying, if I could get your name right. And we always call it happy hour here in these Spec Racer Fords. The fuel's burnt off. Everybody's feeling punchy. This is going to be when we get the best lap times.
Yeah, we'll probably see a couple of cars move up the order. I think we've got some guys that are using a bit of draft help. You see Naselli that's sitting behind Schramm there, coming around the final corner. So let's see if that helps him elevate up to the top two, or past the top two into the top spot, or if it's going to be Schramm, or is it going to be both? And it's going to be Maurizio Naselli with a 203.85 jumping up. And Schramm did actually improve his time, I believe. If I'm looking, no, actually did not. So I actually lost a little bit there, but it's going to drop down to third with that pole time of Naselli jumping over Aleš Pleva. So another good run there from Naselli. He'll start from the front. And I think he's abandoned this whole last to first challenge. I think he's tired of that. And he said, okay, you know what? I'm just going to start from the front and try and win these things. So it just kind of goes to show that the talent here on this in this league is very, very good. And when you get a guy like Maurizio Naselli with a 8.5K I rating, thinking he needs to be up front in order to win this race. So it just goes to show we've got some really, really talented drivers here in the field. Still got the top 8, Arlen Spec 1, Phil Berry, Spec 2, pole sitter there in 9th. And then Antonio Reese with Tom Gradwell right behind in 11th and 12th. Those are your top 2 in the Masters class.
And I thought that Marco Pinero was going to have a good lap time. He has an okay lap time, jumps up to 4th, so it's a big improvement for the driver, the number 16, but not enough to jump his way up onto the front row or the pole. So Josh Wilkie come across the line. There is an improvement from him. Improvement in time, not an improvement in position. Currently holding on to P13 at the moment. Jason Green all by himself, heading his way off through turn number 12. Not sure if this is going to be an improvement for him. Yellow in the first few sectors, so this may just be the end of the session for him. Looking to see anybody saying some good lap times. Matt Thompson improving in the first sector, but yellow in sector 2 stalling out there. The problem with this racetrack, well, not a problem, just kind of the quirk of this place is it really is a track of 2 halves. You've got the tight twisties really starting from turn 1, running all the way through until turn number 15 with a couple of flat-out sections in between that. And then you've got this massively long start-finish straightaway, which in terms of percentage to the rest of the length of the racetrack is probably one of the higher ones that we have all season long.
Yeah, it is a really long front straight there. The run out of Buccino down to San Donato. It was a long run, and I'm just kind of looking, and it's just this track is just kind of littered with these kind of open chicanes, 2 and 3, 4 and 5, 6 and 7. And then, that's after that long run, and then out of turn 1, which is a bit of a hairpin. But then you've got Arrabbiata 1 and 2, which are just, it's an uphill climb the entire way, and just really two open 90-degree right-handers that I think these cars are going to be basically flat out as they climb that hill up on the backside of the track, and it's just going to make for some really, really interesting racing today.
Yeah, truly nothing like this racetrack is one that we've visited so far here this season. So this is going to be a slight venture off into the unknown for these competitors, but one that I'm really looking forward to. I made this observation not too long ago, and I think it really rings true. Us commentators are just sick, twisted individuals because we always like it when these drivers are slightly uncomfortable.
Maybe so. Maybe so. I think we're also very glad that we're up here talking about it and not actually having to go out there and do it. So I think that might have something to do with it as well. But yeah, this is going to be a really fun race, kind of an unknown quantity. I know we were joking before the broadcast that the last time you and I did a broadcast here, I think we had six GT3 cars on track, and it was not the most exciting race as those cars spread out pretty quickly, and it was basically just a long parade lap for like 40 minutes or something like that. It was not the most exciting race in the world. I think we're going to have much more excitement here with 30 car field and pretty equally matched cars and some really good drivers in three very much classes.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one, and really anything is an improvement over that 6-car GT3 race. That was I spent half that broadcast talking about a candle that I still actually have yet to fully burn. But let's take a look at your starting grid here tonight. Maurizio Nazelli is going to start this race from the pole. Aleix Bleva set to join him on the front row. Nathaniel Schramm going to start in third next to Marco Panero, looking for a win on home soil from fourth. Sulal Shutwi will start in P5 next to Dirk Braun in sixth. Scott Russell will be your 7th place starter. Jason Green will be starting alongside him in 8th. Phil Berry will be starting this race in 9th, grabbing the pole in Spec 2 in the process, with Josh Justice completing your top 10. Antonio Reese will be in 11th, starting from the pole of the Masters competitors. Next to him, starting this race in 12th, is Tom Gradwell. P13 will be Joshua Wilkie. P14 will be Matt Thompson. 15th will be Steve Saunders. 16th will be Chris Murakami. Jim Brewster will start this race in 17th, next to Hugh Simpkins in P18. Chris Thorpe will be your 19th starter. Rich Meesters will complete your top 20, with Dennis Furia and Jeff Wubker lining up on row number 11th. Anthony Carbone Jr., a driver that I recognize from Porsche Club of America competition on another network, is going to start this race in 23rd. Marcus Burkett will be in 24th, next to Jeff Jacobson in 26th, will be your 25th place starter of Diego Todeschini. And then it's Kurt Nunez starting in 27th. Paul Jackson in 28th, Brad Cathcart in 29th, and Angel Soto completing your top 30. Guido, did I get Diego's pronunciation wrong there once again?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I nailed it down. I need to have more faith in myself of the foreign pronunciations. Nothing will ever beat the teacher at my high school graduation who called me Ron Mans.
Yeah, one of three of our Italian drivers today. Todeschini, Naselli on the front row, P1, Marco Panero in P4. Do we have a home track advantage today, or just is this just going to be a fight from start to finish? We'll soon find out here as Naselli leads us around on our pace lap here. And we'll get this ball rolling here in short order, as I think we're just about ready. Short pace lap, only about 3/10 of the track used here. So it's going to be a good race, I think. Obviously, we got to get everybody sorted here at the start, and I think we're going to be in for some really good racing.
Yeah, we are on track to have a very fun time here on Slow Motion Broadcasting, round number 6 of the season. I want to thank you all for tuning into the broadcast, and also hearing as well that Carcax may be joining us here in the booth if we ever do a broadcast at Zandvoort. Tam in the YouTube chat can attest to sharing the booth with Charles and I many moons ago at Lime Rock, her hometown track. So, we'll have to reach out and see. But about to get the green flag here for round number 6 of this Spec Racer Ford season. You've got some heavy hitters up at the top, an unknown quantity of a racetrack. Who's going to be able to crack the Da Vinci Code? Who's going to get stumped? Waiting for that green flag to fly here for round number 6 of the Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors season as they stack up farther behind. The green flag flies. The drivers are on their way, and we're racing here in Tuscany. Fantastic start there from Maurizio Nazelli. Going to lead him off into turn number 1 comfortably as Elise Pleva starting to apply some pressure to Nathaniel Schramm side by side to 1.
Yeah, looks good so far. 3 or 4 wide in the back. They're going to have to get that settled out pretty quickly. Don't think that's going to work here as we move around. Although this is a pretty wide track, I'm going to say it's a bit wider than what I was used to seeing in other tracks we've dealt with in the past. So I think there's plenty of racing room out here, but I think 4 wide still may be a bit too much.
Yeah, and heading off into turn number 4, my dyslexic brain's version of hell. It's Matarasi heading off through there, and that's a fantastic start from Nazelli. Gonna lead them still as they head their way out of the first sector. 3 wide racing. Farther behind, though, Jeff Jacobson finding himself in the midst of a battle with he and Jim Brewster. They'll continue to battle as they head their way off into Casanova of turn number 6 and Savelli of 7. Good start throughout most of the field, although that's an off-track moment. Side-by-side racing gone terribly wrong there. That's Steve Saunders dropping down like a rock. He's able to rejoin the racetrack on the inside of turn number 8. Arrabbiata 1 without any further incident. A rather smooth start here at Mugello. I was worried about those chicanes, but these drivers have been able to hold themselves to a high regard, hold themselves to a high standard, and got off to a very smooth start here.
Yeah, absolutely. It was, we had a couple of incidents, and you could just see, I think, something we'll see a recurring issue of is these S sections, these open chicanes, if you want to call them that. If you get offline on entry, it's very tough to recover that car without having to give up a bit of your pace and momentum. So the 2 wides are going to have to kind of settle down. And you're going to have to start looking at other places to make that move. Get these runs on these straightaways and try and make your pass there, because if you're too wide through the corner, somebody's going to end up losing a lot of time for that.
As they complete the first lap, Maurizio Nazelli is your leader, but Nathaniel Schramm is right there. Going to try and get a move done. Heading into turn number 1. They're 3 wide up at the front of Leish Pleva. Strongest slipstream of them all. Trying to get some moves done. He's not going to be able to get it done. Holds on to 4th now. Pinero into 2nd. Schramm holds on to P3. Your top 9. Now an uninterrupted train of Spec 1 competitors. Phil Berry, your highest non-Spec 1 driver, currently holding on to the final spot inside the top 10 with your Masters leader of Antonio Reese directly behind. Pinero, though, currently running into 2nd. Now, Maurizio Nazelli and Marco Pinero, this is just basically a battle of the gods in the history of Spec Race Ford racing here in the Weekend Warriors.
Yeah, it really kind of is. And, these guys, obviously, I know for sure Pinero's multiple past champions. But you got some really good racers there. Pleva's been here seemingly forever. Nate Schramm is new, but obviously has shown a lot of pace in this car. So we're going to get a replay here. Marcus Burkett just missing that a little bit. I think that was Nunez in front, and I think that was Brad Cathcart behind, if I believe if that's the right paint scheme, and just got out of shape there as they were working through. Might have misjudged the braking just a little bit. But good start from Josh Justice up to P7, 3 positions gained already. So he's jumped over Barry, and now Barry and Wilkie, your top 2 in Spec 2, are nose to tail. So that'll start heating up here in short order, I imagine.
Yeah, the battle's still fixing to get hot. This is an odd racetrack for these Spec Racer Fords because we talked about the challenge of this place and how it keeps these drivers on their toes more often than not. That long straightaway, though, just keeps them close enough. It's just like slightly old super glue. You know, it sticks well enough, but it is very easy to get ripped apart. That's the case for this field. You can already see the gaps begin to form. Small little breakaways, nothing major, but still small little gaps beginning to form. Small little cracks forming throughout this field. Your top three, though, have just had a little swapperoo. Marco Pinero is now your race leader. Nathaniel Schramm holding on to second. Merton Nazelli shuffled down to third. And those drivers were able to pull a little margin between themselves and Aleix Pleva. This is the trouble about this track. I think it's kind of even more so than what we saw at the Green Hell last time out, Charles, where the drivers have to rely not only on that straight line contact there between Soto and Furia heading off through turn number 2 and 3. They're able to hold on to it. They keep it going in a straight line. But talking about the Green Hell last time around, as I kicked Guido's meter off of his desk there, that little screech from me. This track is one where you've got to put in a lot of effort heading through the tight and twisties just to stay with your competition, because if you don't, you're going to lose sight of them real quick.
Yeah, absolutely. And you see the gaps. Top 15 are still within a second of each other. And that's all the way down to Chris Murakami. And you can just see the train coming down the hill there, as we're going to get a replay here in this Diego Todeschini right behind Jim Brewster. It just maybe catching the car, locking the brakes up, missed the corner there. And is he going to restart, or is he going to go back? I think he is sitting there. So that actually might be a hardware malfunction, as he is still sitting off the track. So we'll say that may be what it is now we're getting another little gap there as Antonio Reese falls off the back of Tom Gradwell, who's taken over the Masters class lead and is at 1.3 seconds behind. So still a 12-car train up at the front of the pack.
And Diego Todeschini just towed it back into pit lane there, just caught that in the corner of my eye. So yeah, certainly a hardware failure. That looked like an odd section of the racetrack to lose it, as Josh Justice loses it, heading off through the final turn, avoids a gravel trap, but loses out on a boatload of time. Now going to get chewed up and spat out by the Big Bird machine of Phil Berry. That's the only time I think in recorded history of mankind that Big Bird has been scary. Schramm, now your leader. Fastest laps of plenty throughout most of your top runners, including Pleva, who we thought was starting to lose track of those drivers farther up the road. Well, you can take that and throw it out the window. He's in fourth, directly behind Nazelli, and Sulal Shutley is right there to pounce too.
Yeah, absolutely. And that has, with that miscue there by Justice, has opened a little bit of a gap between 5th and 6th. 1.1 is Green is going to try and lock that back down, try and get that gap closed back off. He's probably going to need a little help from the guys in front, do a little bit of battling through a corner to allow that second little pack to catch up. Otherwise, these top 5 may just check out and leave the rest of the guys in the dust there, as Justice did fall back down into P10. He did follow Josh Wilkie around Philip Berry, so give Wilkie 9th, Justice 10th, and Berry 11th.
And I'm not going to tempt fate talking about the driver running in that Spec 2 lead right now, because I don't want to jinx him, because I like stable employment. Nathaniel Schramm, though, punching the hole, heading as their way through turn number 10 and 11 right now. Now we're starting to head off into a different phase of this race. I always talk about, in the case of the Formula V shows here on SMB every single Saturday, talking about how in a very draft-heavy race, you have multiple phases of the race, multiple stages, if you would. Excuse me, where the other drivers kind of started off, a little bit of jitters going on, everybody really antsy to try and get the moves done, and then a little bit of chicanery goes down, breaks up the field a little bit, and then you settle off into the second stage where everybody's like, okay, let's take it easy, have to worry about this, have to worry about that, let's not worry about going side by side. And then there's something else that kind of pushes these drivers back up into the racing. Now for the Formula Vs, 10 minutes shorter races and also no pit stops in that league. So it's a different dynamic here in these Spec Racer 4s, but one that I think can draw some comparisons either way. However, if you look at this Spec Racer Ford field, a lot of them, you know, Weekend Warriors veterans, and some of them that have driven in the Formula V Weekend Warriors in the past, but none of them inside of the top 10, with I think the case of either Jason Green, a past championship contender in the Vs, and Josh Justice, a driver who's still very fast in them, along with Scott Russell, who occasionally pops into those FV races as well. But for the most part, everybody in this field not too familiar with the Formula V races game, but they do know the game with the Spec Racer Ford, and they know how to play it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is the spot as we get the replay here of Anthony Carbone Jr. going into the pits and just pulling off the track and bouncing it off the wall. And looks like he has towed himself back to the pits as well. So I think he is done for the day. So yeah, it's, we get into this phase where they start doing a little bit of fuel saving here at the front of the grid, and trying to just maximize that pit stop, reduces time as much as possible. And nobody really does a whole lot. I mean, you'll see the overspeeds where a car will flip a position here and there, but for the most part, they're not planning on doing any side-by-side racing at this stage. They'll get through the pit stop, and then we'll start hammering those laps as people try and do some short fueling. But otherwise, it's going to be kind of nose to tail here for a bit. And I think that's going to play into the hands of that second group. And I think that with Dirk Braun now leading, Dirk Braun now leading that pack, I think that plays into their hands a little bit. They can push their luck a little bit more, push the pace a little bit, and allow them a chance to get back up to the front. But still a difficult proposition as you got 5 very, very fast race cars at the front of this field.
Yeah, some very fast race car drivers as well. Pinero, Schramm, Nazelli, Pleva, Al-Shatwi. I don't even want to imagine how many wins those 5 drivers combined for here in these cars. So this is going to be a titanic battle as we go throughout this race. Just barely 10.5 minutes through into this. So we still have a whole lot of racing left to go. But if it's anything to go by, this is going to be a challenging test of these drivers' skill, their patience, and their thought process as well. Their ability to think through these races. Usually just think, oh yeah, if you're a racing driver, you just need to turn the wheel and move the pedals as quickly as you can. But there's a lot of thought that goes into it. The brain of a race car driver is a scary place. Trust me, as a former driver myself, it's not a place you want to be in. A lot is contact made heading at turn number 1. That's a big spin for Steve Saunders, and fortunately nowhere for Jeff Wubker to go. He got collected in that, and I thought that he was maybe going to ballpark it there. The front clip popping off as that was near. Oh my God, look at that. No wonder why they had an incident. They're going 4 wide into 1.
Yeah, 4 wide into 1, settles down into 3. Nunez with a big run there. Gets cleared, and then you see the car on the outside there lose the rear of the car in the outside lane, trying to get it turned back down, and just a little too much steering input, and around he goes, and then the contact with Wubker there in the 990, as Wubker now has a meatball flag, so he'll have to come in and make his pit stop sooner rather than later. But we're at the 12-minute mark here, so I think we're going to be probably in the pit window. So he should be able to come in, get his fast repair, and get back out and remain in the race without having to pit again.
Yeah, if there is such a thing as a well-timed falling anvil, I guess it is that. It's pretty much a damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of deal. But if it works, it works. That's a phrase that has gotten me through life for many, many moons. We look at the battling going on throughout this pack. It's again talking about these small little cliques that are forming as goodness me, interesting call. Nazelli and Pinero file into the pits at the end of lap 6. We were talking about this racetrack being an odd one, Charles. Maybe it's one that these drivers couldn't throw an oddball strategy call.
Yeah, I mean, just sitting there thinking about it, I guess the undercut probably could work. A lot of draft areas, open track, so you're not going to get too constricted trying to make moves back up through the field. So this actually might be a good strategy call for Pinero and Nazelli to come in here and go ahead and get their stop done and get back out. And then just kind of work their way back up through the field, picking cars off one at a time as they're getting the draft benefit there at the back. So that's one of those that you don't know until we get about another 20 minutes into this race, and we'll see how it all plays out, though.
Yes, it's certainly left to be decided whether that is a good call or not. Jeff Wubker, of course, came into the pits with that meatball flag along with Marcus Burkett. So more drivers filing into the pits. Now I wonder whether this is going to rub off on anybody else. Will they see those 2 cars file down pit lane and think, you know what, we may as well just throw something to try and make it work. The saying usually goes, you don't win races by doing exactly what your competition is doing. But those drivers are very fast, so it's got to wonder what the deal is. Slow down there for Josh Justice. But Yeah, it's just waiting to see exactly what the response is going to be for Nathaniel Schramm, Aleix Pleva, and Al Shutley. Are they going to play ball?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know the answer to that, and I think that's what we're going to find out here with those 3 cars out by themselves. It's going to give this bigger pack maybe a chance to pick up some time as we see Justice out wide again, just carrying too much speed through there, gets the car rejoined back onto the track, loses that position down, so giving back to P10 as Philip Berry goes by. So let's see if these guys are takers, if they're going to stick with their plan. Looks like they're going to stick with their plan, at least for a lap. Currently, Naselli is ahead of Pinero. They're in 25th and 26th, and they're about 2 seconds behind Steve Saunders. So they're not quite in the range, as we got Green and Thompson coming in. So there are a couple that decided to take that opportunity to come in and get their pit stop done.
Yeah, so just a small little sprinkling of drivers coming into pit lane. I feel like this is going to be one of those where we always talk about the field just flooding into the pits at some point a little bit later on in these races. That's usually how things go here in the Spec Racer Fords. This race, though, I'm not sure if we're going to be seeing that as contact made off through turn number 1. That's Chris Thorpe getting shown the door there. I believe that was Rich Meesters that he made contact there with. Meesters absolutely sent it down the inside there, and he lets him by. Good sportsmanship there. Curious if we maybe load up a replay of that, Guido, because that was definitely a bit of a dive, very opportunistic. The thing is with turn 1, that turn lasts for like forever and a day, so you always have the opportunity to try and go for a move, even if it's not into the braking zone itself.
Yeah, we're on board here with okay, we're switching around here. Steve Saunders, this is Todeschini. So we're trying to find our replay here as we got Steve Saunders coming down, and we're going to see the nose of the car on the inside. We are not as they come out of turn 1. So we're going to get another look here, and this is the Chris Thorpe on the inside, and Meester's coming even deeper to the inside, making that contact. Good job by Thorpe to catch the back of that car. And as you said, good sportsmanship by Meesters, letting those cars go back by. And they said, that's not the way I want to make a pass. We'll reset and try that again. 5-second gap back to Green and Thompson from Naselli and Pinero. So good stops. They're actually quicker, so they actually picked up a little bit of time on those 2 in the front. But just by the virtue of them getting in and getting their pit stop done and back out, they got a pretty nice gap back to Green and Thompson.
Yeah, so before that contact went down, I was going to mention the fact that these pit stops are going to be very broken up just because everybody will want a piece of that clean air. Of course, the drift is always so vital. That's a disaster. Breaking it to turn number 1. 3-car pincer movement between Scott Russell, Dirk Braun, and Josh Justice. And that right there is a huge moment for Scott Russell in that old Miller Lite throwback scheme. Let's take a look at this here. It was bump drafting gone cataclysmically wrong there. You can see Wilkie bumping the hell out of Dirk Braun. There was a contact that got out of hand very, very quickly. And there you can see Scott Russell, very lucky that he didn't make contact. Very lucky for Dirk Braun that he didn't make contact there. You know, he's our boss man and we love him, but discretion should have probably been the better part of valor there. Sometimes the best thing that you can do in the case of a bump drafting scenario like that is know when to lift off.
Yeah, and I think that after that first wiggle, it probably should have been the indication that you probably don't want to do that again. And just he just kept trying to push, and it just became too much for Braun in front to handle, and you saw the contact made. Luckily, I think all those cars are going to be okay as far as damage. However, obviously, Braun and Russell both lost tons of time, and Wilkie lost time in this process as well. But you just see, you got to get that bump lined up, and it just seemed like the rear of that car of Braun's, it just kept moving around, and you saw just a little bit of contact, and that was all it takes to break the car loose. And so I think if Josh had to do it all over again, he probably would have lifted there and gave up a little bit of that, trying to keep everybody on the track, as he is now up to 5th, but he now has Tom Gradwell running in 4th in front of him.
And so looking at this little pack of cars behind, still pretty packed in and boxed in. That's now Josh Justice applying the pressure and getting a bump draft there to the back of Josh Wilkie. So the Josh and Josh train chugging along up to be the front of this little pack of cars. Will they be able to jump in front of Tom Gradwell? Looks like they will be. Gradwell backs off. One thing I love about these Spec Racer Fords and the driver talent here in this series, you always have that class convergence. It's a bit unique on iRacing, although I have seen it become a bit more common for leagues that are just down to the fact that I'm broadcasting too many leagues at this point that I get to see it a bit more often, of single car racing, but multi-classes with multiple classes within that single car. That's what we've got here on the Weekend Warriors between the Formula Vs, Formula Fords, and Spec Racer Fords. But I feel like in the Spec Racer Fords and the Formula Vs, I think to a degree as well, you have the prospect of non-Spec 1 drivers, either in the Spec 2 or the Masters class, contending with their Spec 1 foes and just giving us a 3-car battle with 3 drivers fighting for something very different. Of course, the drivers are scored based off of their overall finishing position, but I always find it very fascinating to see that multicolored timing tower begin to light up as Spec 1 drivers put moves on Spec 2 drivers. Spec 2 drivers battle with Masters, and they all battle with Spec 1. That's one of the things I love about the Weekend Warriors. Doesn't matter what class you're put into. If you're a racer and you want to get a move done, hey, go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. I think this is one of the things that makes this league very, very fun and popular. There's not a lot of leagues that continuously put 30 cars on the track week in and week out. So that's another thing, is you've got a really, really good driver base that are enthusiastic about racing. It doesn't matter what track is on there. Some are going to be better than others, but you still have a very large group of diehard racers that want to go out there and race every week. We'll say that Russell and Braun both took their pit stops. They're down in P21 and 22. They're just behind Matt Thompson, who has got about a 6.5-second gap up to Jason Green, and Jason with about a 7-second gap up to Maurizio Nazelli and Marco Pinero. So 17th and 18th for Pinero and Nazelli as the pit cycle continues here. See a couple cars moving to the inside there of Wilkie as Gradwell up to P4, and Big Bird there, Philip Berry, gets into P5, takes over the Spec 2 lead. Wilkie drops down to 6th, Justice in 7th, and now he has Antonio Reese on his inside there looking to make a move.
And side-by-side battling flaring up between those two. That's Reese and Simpkins.
Yeah.
Slide there from Reese. Got to hold on to P8. Simpkins having a back at it, and Chris Murakami maybe got to try and apply some pressure, heading off into Casanova of turn number 6. He's now going to punch his way up into that spot. Some nice opportunistic moves being put on there by Chris Murakami. Jumps his way up a spot and has a slightly less obstructed view of your current P2 runner of the Masters competitors of Antonio Reese. Whenever I see that Big Bird car of Phil Berry, I think back to the time that as a child I had a very odd and very vivid Big Bird related nightmare. That should have been the first time that I should have probably gone and seen a therapist. I'm not sure where that came from. I can't even remember when it was. I think I was 8 when it took place, and I still have some bad flashbacks to that to this day. Anyways, side-by-side going on, actually 4-pack of Spec Racer Fords as they head their way through turn number 12. Now it's Phil Berry got a move done there on Tom Gradwell, who slipped up a little bit into the turn, and Josh Wilkie got a move done on Josh Justice. So even though these drivers are now past the halfway mark, they're still battling as if every single lap is the last.
Yeah, they are. It's a nice battle here from P4 down to about P10 with Hugh Simpkins. And these cars keep continually swapping positions left, right, and center. There is now Wilkie and Reese drop to the pits. They're going to take their pit stop now at the 23-minute mark. Shram Pleva and Al Shutwi still your top 3, and they've got about a 10-second gap over now Tom Gradwell, who's just passed up Philip Berry for P4.
Yeah, so the battling's still going on as the drivers battle in their own brains to figure out when is the best time to come into the pits. We're pretty much on pit watch now all the way through to the end. Speaking of pit stops, Diego Todeschini was just the latest racer to come into the pits, along with that 4-pack of Wilkie, Nunez, Reese, and Meesters. I'm looking through the pack, trying to keep tabs on everything. Angel Soto just picked up a black flag. That's not ideal. You don't need to be a rocket scientist to know that. Marco Panaro and Maurizio Nazelli running that off-kilter strategy. The first drivers come into the pits are currently in 12th and 13th. I'm curious, Guido, if we could pull up the gap, the gap between everybody else in the field. Yeah, there we go. Perfect stuff there. 36 seconds from Panaro to your lead pack, led by Nathaniel Schramm.
Yeah, and I think it's about 40 seconds down pit road for the normal stop. So going to be very, very tight once these cars make their stop. Obviously they're going to be able to take on a little less fuel because they've gone a little bit longer during the race. So I think they're going to be able to just maybe shorten that stop up just a bit. So we'll see. It's going to be, I think, very, very tight when we get done. With all the pit stops. I think that black flag was for speeding on pit entry. I think he has decided that it's going to be enough for him today. It does not look like he's going to come back out onto the track. So still this nice battle here. It's a little bit lower every day. It looks like we had maybe a little jink there by Pleva, maybe thinking that he was going to faking out Al Shutwee there, trying to get him to go down pit road by himself. So I think the guys behind the leader are just going to say, okay, when you go, we'll come out together, and we'll see what happens. But we do have Gradwell and Philip Berry coming into the pit. So that's P2 in Masters and our P2 in Spec 2, as well as Chris Murakami now inherits the Masters lead, and Hugh Simpkins inherits the Spec 2 lead.
Yeah, they are still battling tooth and nail with Josh Justice looking to get a move done on Murakami. Lost out on 5th to Simpkins, and now still on pit watch for this pack. Jeff Jacobson pulled it into pit lane there as well. So a group of 3 drivers now filing their way into pit lane. It's given Maurizio Nazelli and Marco Panaro a spot back inside of the top 10. They continue to swap. Now, one thing that we can say about Nazelli and Marco Panaro, A, they're quick, and B, they are veterans here in the Spec Racer Fords. If there's any driver, any 2 drivers at least in this field that know this car like the back of their hand and can play the hand very, very well, it is Nazelli and Panaro. They know exactly what they need to do, even on this track where the draft is both a mix of being incredibly important and not that important compared to some of the other tracks that we've been at so far this season. They know exactly when to swap spots, and that's the reason why in their own little pack, not having to worry about any traffic, they have been able to make up time hand over fist.
Yeah, absolutely. And we see Steve Saunders with a black flag. I think that's going to be for incident points. So he'll have to come down and drive through the pits to serve that penalty. As looking at the last lap time, pretty identical. I mean, pretty even between our top 3 that are out there on the track, and Naselli yeah, there we go. All 3 at the same time. Kind of what I was expecting. Schramm leads the way down into the pits. Naselli and Panaro will be making their way around. So we're about to find out in very, very quickly how this is going to shake out as now Chris Murakami comes into the pits as well.
Yes, sir. Murakami coming into pit lane. Hugh Simpkins and Josh Justice staying out. That will give the lead to your Spec 2 runner of Hugh Simpkins. Now, I got to wonder if they're going to file into the pit lane here soon. They've been battling hard, but they've been swapping around quite a lot, too. So, got to wonder what the deal may be for them. Aleix Pleva very long down the pit lane. He's going to get jumped in front of by Nathaniel Schramm and Sulal Shutwee and Aleix Pleva. Wonder where Panaro and Nazelli are going to exit out compared to those drivers that are right there. Right there. I don't believe they'll be able to get Schramm. They certainly were able to get past Pleva and Al Shutwee. There they are. They exit out on what will be net P2 and 3 in this race. So it didn't work out fantastically for them. They weren't able to blow everybody's doors off. However, they're in a very good spot for the final 12 minutes.
Yeah, and so here's the other parts of that is Shutwee and Pleva are close enough. They're going to get the draft off of Panaro and Nazelli. Schramm, Thompson Trophy candidate, 10.9 second stoppage time, about 3 seconds faster than everybody else. So definitely a fuel gamble, I think, for Nate Schramm. And we'll see how that's going to play out. I think we'll know pretty quickly whether or not he thinks he's got enough fuel, as he will probably allow these guys to go by and draft until the very last minute before he tries to make a run for the race win, as you see Panero on the inside there coming by, and looks like Naselli's going to as well. And then you have Al-Shutwi and Pleva. Al-Shutwi able to close the gap and get in there, and Pleva as well. So 5-car pack at the front. Once we get Simpkins and Justice into the pit box, this will be your top 5.
Yeah, now as we head into the final 10 minutes of this race, so a lot of questions left to be answered. Here's one of them. You Simpkins and Josh Justice finally file into pit lane, close as they headed their way across that stripe to start the pit lane speed limit. Simpkins got to be leading Justice in. That'll give the race lead back to Marco Panero. It'll elevate Nazelli, Schramm, Al-Shutwi, Pleva, pretty much everybody in this little train up. Gotta wonder where Justice and Simpkins are going to exit out. I believe they may be able to get out in front of the likes of Phil Berry, Josh Wilkie, and others. It may be close, though. Let's keep an eye on those drivers on exit to see how that goes, because that has some implications in your Spec 2 lead as well. So definitely some stuff left to be determined there. Schramm, very, very heavy on the lifting, heading down into turn number 1. We've seen him go for some odd strategy calls before, which is why when I heard that he had taken a short stop, I was thinking, maybe he can make it work. I think he may have bit off a little bit more than he can chew. We'll have to see, though. Oh, golly. Oh,
Simpkins
no.
out in front of Murakami. Little loose there. They get it all checked up. Little contact between Simpkins and Murakami, and Simpkins now with a black flag. So that's going to be it's going to be very detrimental. To not see if he had that coming out of the pits, if that was speeding on pit exit, or if that was incident points for the contact. Either way, he will have to serve a penalty and come back down pit road. So that's going to take him out of the battle for the Spec 2 class win. Is that's going to be Josh Wilkie and Phil Berry running at 8th and 9th, and they're going to be right behind Josh Justice. Big gap up to Jason Green. Jason Green kind of out there in a bubble by himself running in P6.
Yeah, if there's anybody that's feeling lonely in this pack right now, we've got a couple of candidates. I think Jason Green may have a good shout, 9.5 seconds away from just anybody around him. He's in a small little desert island of competition. He's just there in P6. Got caught up in some of the battles early. Lost touch of that top pack. You know how I said that if you lost touch of the drivers up the road, you're probably never going to see them again?
Yep.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
Yeah. It's unfortunate, though. Really not a lot that Jason Green did to put himself in that situation. It's just so often here in these Spec Racer 4s, it's just draft-heavy racing, period, for that matter, especially on the road course ovals, it goes without saying. But here on the road, it is so often than not a case of just being in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yep,
drive-by
absolutely.
shooting.
I think you're absolutely right as we're on board with that. That battle is going to heat up here between Justice, Wilkie, Barry Braun, and Russell Murakami. Antonio Reese is now in that pack as well as Simpkins comes down pit road to serve his penalty. And I think we're 7.5 minutes or so left, and I think this battle will just get hotter as we go. And we'll see how this all shakes out as we've got both the Masters and Spec 2 class drivers battling for those class wins in this group of cars.
Yeah, so although that pack for the lead is going to be intense, this one has its own little special level of importance. Josh Wilkie, Phil Berry contending for that lead of the Spec 2 racers.
Yep.
And hearing as well from Guido that Simpkins, as you can see on the graphics, black flag for him still, as well as a black flag for Dennis Furia. So multiple drivers picking up black flags. Simpkins still holding on to that black flag, though, so it may have been some kind of pit lane violation. Of course, here in this series, there are no multiple warnings or multiple penalties for incident points. You hit 13X, you pick up a drive-through, you hit 18X, you get sent to hell.
Yep, pretty much. That's pretty much right. So Simpkins will have to come back down again as we're still looking at this battle here between Justice, and now we move up to our lead group. Naselli in the lead, followed by Panero, Al-Shutwi, Pleva, and Nate Schramm. Nate Schramm doing his best to save fuel while hanging on to the back of this group. So he's going to have to do that probably for the next few laps, but you'll know when he thinks it's time, because he'll start trying to make challenge back up to the front with about 6 minutes to go. With a 2-minute lap, so I think we're 3 to go here at the line.
Yeah, so certainly in crunch time, these drivers know that, and that's the reason why they're starting to bring up the heat. Pleva sets a good lap time there. He's looking for second on the inside of Nazelli, gets it done with a whole shot into 1. So Pinero, now your leader. He's still the whole punch of the field. However, you've got some very interested competitors behind. Aleix Pleva is the one that I'm keeping my eye out for the most. Is good golly gosh darn, as they're going 4 wide hang into turn number 1. Still a 4-pack of Spec Racer Fords heading their way out of the turn. And that's Scott Russell going to punch his way up into 7th. Dirk Braun in 8th. Josh Justice and Josh Wilkie. The Josh and Josh battle continues there. Or am I joshing?
No, I don't think you're joshing. As Justice takes that position for the time being, P9, P10 for Wilkie. Wilkie still hanging on over Philip Berry for Spec 2 supremacy here, running in 10th place. And just at the back of this group, you've got Chris Murakami and Antonio Reese, your 2 Masters contenders there. So we got some battles for overall positions, because every point matters here in this league. And then you've got some battles for some bragging rights here in the classes. So it's about to heat up a little bit more as we turn this week up. It'll be 2 to go. We get back to the start-finish line.
And Hugh Simpkins has decided to call it a day. A black flag once again for Simpkins. I think he's just decided to call it. Diego Todeschini a little bit farther back as well with a slowdown. I was just going to say, with that 4-wide bout of racing heading into turn number 1, I said, good golly gosh. You could tell that was exciting because I turned it to Gomer Pyle there. That was absolutely incredible. I don't think we're going to be seeing the end of that, though. I think we're going to be seeing a little bit more 4-wide racing breakout, mainly with this top pack. Certainly with that backpack, that kind of goes without saying. They've already done it many times before. Don't expect it to slow down anytime soon. But in this battle for the lead, the 4 drivers that I think are in it to truly win it, they're going to be duking it out, throwing bare knuckle fists at each other. Actually, I say that as Pleva holds on to the race lead. Al Shukwi, he's about a half a second back. He hasn't really shown me a lot of thunder so far. Maybe he could bring the heat as we get towards the end. I'm not sure, though.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he's doing a good job of staying in that front group. He's not really doing a lot of putting a lot of pressure on the top 3. The top 3 just duking it out seemingly every corner. I think what Al Shutwi and Schramm are looking for is we get contact there between Braun and Wilkie as Wilkie gets that position. I think what they're looking for is those top 3 guys to really start battling hard through the corners, and that's just going to make it really easy to pick up the pieces if something goes wrong.
Yeah, now one thing that a Spec Racer 4 driver has to learn rather quickly when they start up in this series is just to be able to pick up those pieces in case disaster does break out here. This racetrack as well, it is super tough to do. Look at Nathaniel Schramm. This is very unfortunate. I feel bad for the Schrammers in the chat, but I think the fuel saving has gone from frantic to desperate.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think that's exactly what's happening. I think he's realizing that he's, even with the fuel saving he's been doing, he might not make it to the end of this race. So he's really, really lifting, and he's fallen out of the draft. So now his only hope is he can lift enough here on the last couple of laps to get to the end, and then there's a catastrophe at the front of this field. Otherwise, I think he's going to be due for a very solid top 5, but not when you were battling for a win. I don't think that's going to be. I don't think he's going to be real happy about that. As we get still this battle just never ends. I think they may still battle after the checkered flag, as we got white flag last lap. Here we go.
Yeah, the white flag out. One more lap of racing action here in Mugello, and it's Nazelli, Pinero, and Pleva all squabbling up. Solau Shukwi is kind of the rear gunner, and this is contact made into turn number 1. Second and third wipe each other out, and then there was only one. Marco Pinero escapes from it all with the race lead. Al Shukwi had to check up a little bit, 1.1 seconds a gap. Well, it was going to be a battle for that race lead, and then they blew it up. Now we got a battle right now for your lead in Spec 2, although Phil Berry has to make up a ton of time in this final lap to try and make it work. Right now, Josh Wilkie more so worried about getting P7 from Scott Russell, the 777 driver, looking to finish this race in P7, very close as they head their way off through 2 and 3 for the final time here. That was disastrous, about as disastrous as you can imagine for Maurizio Nazelli. Disaster either way for Pleva, who got collected in that as well. Just a little bit of over-aggression going on, maybe slightly overly opportunistic there into turn number 1. We'll have to take a look at a replay once we're set and done here with this final lap. Then we can really analyze it, because I think we'll have to take a couple of microscopic looks at that, go pixel by pixel, frame by frame to see it all there. Talking about like it's some sort of criminal investigation. Josh Justice now kind of rear gunner of this little duo. Josh Wilkie and Scott Russell were battling to start off this lap. Now they formed a little truce. Josh Justice feeling a little bit of pressure there from Dirk Braun, who's looking to bounce back. We think about the Code Brown moment, emphasis on Brown heading into turn number 1 there for Scott Russell and Dirk Braun. That was absolute nightmare fuel heading into the turn there when they nearly lost it. Josh Wilkie, though, right there around them. They didn't lose that on a boatload of time when it was all done, and they may start to battle out here soon. But at the front of the field, Marco Panero going to weather the storm. Didn't have to hold off too much at the end because his competitors shot themselves in the foot. Marco Panero going to grab the checkered flag to win here in Mugello. Sulau Shutwi comes home in a somewhat close quarters P2. Nathaniel Schramm going to weather the storm and end up in third as side-by-side battling here. This is going to get froggy, heading down into the start-finish straightaway. Who's going to win out of this little pack of 4 wide racing and the Spec Racer Fords? Who's going to get the nose out at the line? I think it was Dirk Braun.
Wow.
What a finish.
Dirk Braun, Josh Justice, Scott Russell, Josh Wilkie, Phil Berry, and it was just so tight. 3 milliseconds between Justice and Russell at the end. 200ths of a second back for Josh Wilkie. You can't get any closer than that. That's just absolutely insane as they were battling 4 wide down the straightaway. Great battle there between that group. Then give Josh Wilkie the Spec 2 win. Give Chris Murakami the Masters class win over Antonio Reese. So great driving there. Really fun race today. We had some really good battles all over this track.
Yeah, what a race. You know, it's not the absolute heater that you usually expect of a big draft-heavy race, but that was still fantastic. I got to wonder how that battle for the win would have developed if we didn't see the incident go down in turn number 1 like we did. Dennis Furia, the last car to come across the stripe, we'll follow him for a couple of moments' time, watch him come across the line. Then I think it may be high time for us to take a look at some replays of the drama there on the last lap for your top runners. Unfortunate for both Nazelli and Pleva. I think they had a fantastic shot to get a win. They would have most certainly finished on the podium. It was odd to see Al Shutwi. He was just kind of there for the most part. He was pretty much just a spectator for that lead battle. I mean, he was there to pick up the pieces, walks away with the P2. I don't think he'll turn that down one bit. However, he wasn't really stick his nose into that battle as much as we sometimes expect for a driver of his prominence. Let's take a look at the replays, though. We have a lot to discuss on that final lap, and I think we'll start by taking a look at that incident. Charles, I think I said right at the time, it's just a little bit opportunistic from some of the drivers involved.
Yeah, good side-by-side battle there. It's Marco Panero on the inside, and it just, I mean, it was there, and then it wasn't between Pleva and Naselli. Naselli just committed himself to the outside line, tried to turn it down and trying to get at least part of that apex, and just there's nowhere to go. I mean, it's just racing. It's 2 cars going for the same patch of tarmac, and it just, there was, you know, nothing either one of these cars could have done. I think obviously they're both going for that apex, and both had, I think, adequate reason to go for that apex. So I think if it's me, I'm thinking racing incident. It is what it is. But obviously that was the end of their chance for a race win there. Unfortunately, we're going to get this battle here. Russell on the inside, Wilkie there on the left side. You see Justice moving to the inside there, making it almost 3 wide through as we come out of the final. I believe this is the final corner, as you get a good push there from Dirk Braun on the 99 of Josh Justice as they work their way down. And there we go, 4 wide coming down to the stripe, and just so tight there. All of the cars within about, I think, 300 or 400ths of a second. That's how close that was. And Wilkie leading that pack when you came out of the corner. And unfortunately, the runs that the cars behind got off the draft, just not really anything you could overcome at that point.
What a way to end that race, though. That was absolutely marvelous, as we could see a little bit of the wrecking heading down out there on the racetrack. That's in the runoff area. I believe that's into the runoff area of Arrabbiata 1, I believe. So, hearing from Guido that his suspicion is that everybody is out of gas. Guido, how are the gas stations in Italy? Are they good? I don't know why this question just popped up into my head. I'm curious now.
They have a Buc-ee's. They have a Buc-ee's at Mugello somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they have a Wawa in turn 5. Actually, I'll share this before we get into the results. It's fitting because they lost again here after giving me some hope with a win yesterday. The Philadelphia Phillies subreddit has completely changed to be exclusively Wawa themed until they win a series. They haven't done it since April the 9th. I'm not sure if they'll do it for quite some time. They are 9-19 so far this season, and at this point, I'm starting to just root for the Iron Pigs up there in Allentown. But let's take a look at your race results here before I start talking too much about the Phillies, because that will, trust me, folks, that'll be a 16,000-year-long rant. Marco Pinero gets the win here at his hometown track, shall we say. It actually, we can't say that. There's 2 Italian racetracks we'll be running at here this season. Next time, it'll be round 12, the season finale at Monza on the junior circuit. So we'll have to figure out whether or not some of these drivers, it was actually their hometown track here, or whether Monza will be a little bit later on this season. But either way, Marco Pinero, the Italian of the 16, gets the job done. Didn't feel too much heat at the end of that race, certainly on the last lap, although it did get intense and spicy throughout. Sulal Shutwi ends up in a somewhat quiet P2. Nathaniel Schramm running on fumes rounds at your podium in 3rd. Maritza Nazelli will come home in 4th. He got involved in that little squabble into 1 with Aleix Pleva. They complete your top 5. Jason Green will end up in P6 in front of Dirk Braun in 7th, who won out in a squeaker. Look at these gaps between some of these drivers. That's what, 30 thousandths of a second between Dirk Braun and Josh Justice, and then 1,000th between Josh Justice and Scott Russell, and then just like 21 thousandths between Russell and Wilkie, completing your top 10, who wins in Spec 2. Madness at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. Phil Berry finishing in 11th and P2 in Spec 2. Chris Murakami gets your Masters class victory over Antonio Reese, who finishes just behind in 13th. Matt Thompson rounds out your Spec 2 podium, and Tom Gradwell in 15th rounds out your Masters podium. Jeff Jacobson finishing in 16th. Jim Brewster finishes in 17th. Rich Meester's 18th. Chris Thorpe 19th. Kurt Nunez finishing in 20th. Brad Cathcart 21st. Marcus Burkett 22nd. Paul Jackson 23rd. Jeff Wubker 24th. Dennis Furia finishing in 25th. Diego Tonaschini finishes in 26th. Hugh Simpkins 27th. Steve Saunders 28th. Angel Soto 29th. And then Anthony Carbone Jr. finishing and rounding out your 30-car field.
And so those are your results for round number 6 of the Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors here at Mugello. I want to thank you all for tuning into the action on Slow Motion Broadcasting. I want to thank Mr. Joshua Wilkie for making this broadcast possible. We'll be able to have a chat with him here in a couple of moments. He owns a place, so he can pop in whenever he wants. But let's start by having a chat here with Nathaniel Schramm, a driver that I've had many opportunities to chat with. So, Charles, I'm going to give you the opportunity to have a chat with our race, our podium finisher. I nearly said race winner. He's been doing that good so far this season. Our P3 finisher at the end of this race, Nathaniel Schramm.
Yeah, let's bring Nate in here. Nate, finishing in 3rd. Looks like you may have made a strategy call that maybe bit you and kept you out of that fight for the overall win tonight.
Yeah, I thought we were only going to go 18 laps. I overestimated how slow the pit lane was. So I ended up leaving the pit lane with a deficit of 0.33 liters. So that was a lot of lift and coast for me at the tail end there.
Yeah, we could definitely tell, and we were watching it as you came out of the pits for your stop, and noticed that it was significantly shorter than everybody else at the front of the field. And it's like, okay, let's see what happens. And yeah, you just kind of fell back and kind of try to hang on to the back of that front pack, and eventually just had to give it up and really go into that extreme fuel save mode. And then we had an incident up front. Let's talk about just the track itself. So our first time, I think, coming to Mugello here in the Spec Racers. What did you think about our layout here today?
Oh, this was great. This was super fun, super technical. You have to hit every mark, maximize every chicane as much as you can. But if you go too much on the entry, you get slowdowns, and then the X's on the exits. So, and then you get a massive draft on the front straight, and even in between the chicanes is a lot. But yeah, I just got lucky, and probably the most undeserved podium that I'll ever get in sim racing.
Yeah. I always say sometimes you have to be good, and sometimes you just need to be lucky, and I think that's kind of worked out for you today. So next week, and that's just where I show my idiocy, but not knowing where we're going to be next week. We're going to where Summit Point.
Summit Point
Next week, and that's a classic Spec Racer track, and I think everybody's going to be kind of up for that one. Yeah,
absolutely. One of the very fun free rookie tracks that everybody has a lot of experience on in iRacing. So it's been a long time since I drove there in the Spec Racer. I think the last time I drove there was in the old Spec Racer with the H pattern. So it'll be a little bit of learning for me, but looking forward to it.
All right. Well, Nathan, congratulations on your podium, and we'll absolutely let you give any thanks. I know we got Schrammers in the chat, so we'll let you give your thanks and shout outs.
Absolutely. Got to thank all the chatters and the Schrammers in the chat. Always good to see them. Sorry I wasn't able to get a win for them today, but definitely an unexpected podium, so I'll take that. Like to thank you guys for doing the broadcasting. Like to thank Josh Wilkie for sponsoring the broadcasting. Like to thank the league for putting it on. Like to thank our sponsors, Turner Machine Development and Gager & Sons Power Systems. And like to thank my team, Three Oceans Racing.
There you go, Nate Schramm. Thank you very much for stopping in, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week. Thank you.
And that right there was Nathaniel Schramm, our P3 finisher. Let's have a chat with the man that makes this broadcast possible, makes this company possible, and our Spec 2 winner here today, Mr. Joshua Wilkie, joining us here in the broadcast booth. Josh, welcome in. I think for the first time in the entire time that we've been covering Weekend Warriors racing here on Slow Motion Broadcasting, the driver who sponsored the broadcast did not get struck by a falling anvil. So how was it out there?
Hey, that's true, Ron. Thank you. Thanks, guys. Great show today, too. I watched a little bit of it already. Awesome finish. Yeah, no, it was great. Really good driving out there from everyone. I was just clench factor 9 there at the end because I had 11x and I'm like 4 wide everywhere, just like, please don't tap me, please, trying to be as clean as I can. I had a bit of an incident with Dirk and Scott Russell. We're going to have a look at that. I'm sure it was my fault. It was not intentional at all, but overall, excellent race, really fun track. Have to give it up to everybody out there. It was just really fun, man. Mugello was awesome. I watched Guido's Italian lap too. That is going to be a short. Amazing. Sounded so cool. Thank you for doing that. Honestly, that was really cool. With me and Guido doing the Italian thing. Wow, I'm going to keep that one forever.
See, I'm going to say, and this is honest, whenever Guido does the Italian lap guides, which we've had a couple of those now, if my memory serves me correctly, I now know exactly how Charles feels whenever I say some of the wild crap that comes out of my mouth. It's just like, how the hell do I follow that up? But,
jeez, yeah.
It was a good one. I want to ask you about that finish as well, Josh. That was pure madness, heading like pretty much the entirety of that final lap. I was expecting that battle to get hot, and get hot it did. 4 wide across the stripe. I think it was a couple of thousands between all of you guys as you had your way across the line. Talk us through that last lap.
Yeah, I mean, I had 11x, right? So it was difficult for sure. I kind of got the opportunity to sort of take the lead into the lap, and I knew if I was leading that pack, with those awesome drivers behind me, all of them very fast, that they were probably going to get me by the line. But I did my very best, in the final corner and everything to just get on the gas early and try. And all I'm thinking out there is be as clean as possible. Practice what you preach. Don't do anything silly. You're leading your class. just let it happen. Unfortunately, I got a little bit mobbed. I think I went from like 7th to 10th, but just to have that experience is more than worth it. So I'm really happy with my 10th place, really happy with that last lap that I was able to put it together and stay clean with everybody out there. And just got to hand it to the competitors and everything. Amazing. This is why I do this. This is why I love SRF. This is why the Weekend Warriors are so amazing. I love it. It's just amazing, man. Having a really good day now. I'm stoked.
Yeah, now next time out here in this series, we're going to be running at Summit Point for the next round of the championship, and learned before we went on the air that Bobby West, longtime Weekend Warriors member, is going to be sponsoring that broadcast from what I heard. So going to be a fun one.
Wow.
Looking forward to that next time out. What are your thoughts heading there?
Hey, first, big thanks to Bobby West. Hopefully we can get him out here again. All the support and sort of logistical stuff he does there in the background is just so cool, to watch, laying out all this stuff from the season and everything. So massive thanks to him. Summit Point, everybody knows that place really well. It feels like a go-kart track, and I think, we're going to have a blast around there. Again, it's going to be about respecting your competitors around there. You have to play ball, or you just end up outside of it in the rhubarb, right? So decision-making, respect, that's what this thing's all about. That's what SRF is all about, is waiting for your opportunity and kind of respecting the drivers around you. So I'm really looking forward to Summit Point. There's a big jump at the end by the Pancake Shack there, and we should have a blast.
Right there by the Pancake Shack. I'm not sure if that's a Canadian phrase or if there is actually a Pancake Shack there. I believe I'm actually banned from visiting Summit Point in real life.
Oh.
But yeah, actually, see, now I want pancakes. But Josh, before we let you go and celebrate this Spec 2 class win, we'll let you give any thank yous or shout outs.
Yeah, big giant thanks to Stevie Ray and Ray Esports. Congratulations again on his retirement. He's, just talking the other day briefly there, sent me a text saying he's going to try to get out there on track more, and that's just awesome to hear. It's awesome that he's able to put the time in that I know he wants to put into this and everything, and things will probably really be picking up here soon, I think, for SMB and for the Weekend Warriors and Ray Esports. So big thanks to him. Big thanks to you guys. Guido, what an amazing job on the lap guide, man. I'm gonna clip that and keep it forever. It's just so cool. It feels like I made it or something, that I got a lap guide like that. And Charles and you and everybody out there, competitors, it's all you guys at the end of the day, all you guys and girls out there racing that make this so fun and make it possible. So dreams come true, man. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Yep. Hey, Josh, wait till you do the translation, and he's asking you why you were driving so slowly out there.
So my wife was saying, my wife came in here actually while he was talking. You're like, are you sure he's just not making fun of you or something? So I guess we'll have to throw the translator on and see. But wow, does it ever sound amazing? It's such an awesome language, and it fits so well with this kind of thing. It's just awesome. Love it.
See, I thought that Guido was going to be using that lap guide just to, poke fun at Charles and I not knowing how to pronounce any of these stern names. But I guess both can be true. It is a long lap around here. But Josh, we'll probably have a chat with you once this broadcast is done. But
Sure,
done on the Spec 2 class win, and we'll see you back out there on the racetrack here in the Spec Racer Fords at Summit Point.
Yeah, thank you so much, and congratulations to all the winners and everybody else. So thanks, guys. Take care.
Thank you very much. And that right there is Mr. Joshua Wilchie joining us here in the booth. Yeah, I couldn't do it to the man's face again. I like stable employment. But Charles, I'll pass the mic off to you to have a chat with a man who had a very good day in his own regard, that being Chris Murakami.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's bring Chris in here and have a chat with him. Chris, congratulations on the Masters class victory. You got in this second group of cars, this train, and had a mix of Spec 1, Spec 2, and Masters drivers, and it was some pretty intense racing throughout this race.
Yeah, there's a big pack there. And just trying not to get in trouble.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of people trying to avoid that as well. So what did you think about Mugello? I think this was our first time out here at this track in the Spec Racer. How'd you find the racing other than the big pack?
I really liked it. I like the kind of non-tight corner type of tracks, so more higher speed. So for me, it does a little bit better. So no, I enjoyed it. It was good racing.
Yeah, it really was, and obviously it showed because you beat out Antonio Reese and Rich Meesters and a host of other guys in your class. So well done. Next week we go back to an old favorite in Summit Point. So how are you thinking about that?
Well, Summit's one of those classic ones. No, I enjoy Summit, but everyone else does too. So makes it difficult. But yeah, it's I like it.
Yeah, there you go. Well, Chris, thanks for stopping into the broadcast booth, and we'll give you a chance to give any thanks or shout outs before we let you go celebrate your class victory.
Well, thank you for you guys, Charles and Josh, for sponsoring this whole thing, and Steve for making it happen, and all the drivers. Without the drivers, it wouldn't be the same. So no, yeah. Thanks everybody.
Yeah, Chris, absolutely appreciate you coming in, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, thanks, Charles.
And that right there was Chris Murakami, our Masters winner here today. Charles, yeah, I'll be honest, I wasn't really sure what we were going to get here. I think I even said in our little pre-race blibber blabber before we went on the air that this track was either going to produce like a NASCAR-style super speedway race, or it was going to be like the Monaco Grand Prix, and there was going to be like no in between. I feel like it was kind of a mix of the two now that I think about it. Really technical, really challenging, some good spots to get some moves done, but the drivers certainly had to work for it, and enough draft to keep these drivers stuck together. That was a very, very fun combination to call, and it seems like the drivers loved it as well.
I think so. Yeah, it was a fun race, and you could just see that this track really suits the car well. Wish it was maybe a little bit shorter, have a little bit shorter lap. But otherwise, I think it was really fun, and I think by and large everybody had a good time. All of our drivers who at least finished well had fun out there. Maybe there's a couple of guys that didn't really appreciate it, but I think it was it made for some really good racing and some exciting racing. And I can't wait till we come back here and do this all again.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing that action here on Slow Motion Broadcasting next time out at Summit Point. Of course, a lot of action between then and now here on SMB. We've got you covered week in and week out with some amazing racing action. This upcoming week, in fact, we've got the regular Sim Racers group double feature with the F4s running at Suzuka and the F3s running at the Miami Autodrome. There'll be some good action on Tuesday and Wednesday nights. The Formula Vs will be back here on Slow Motion Broadcasting at Aragon. Of course, the Spec Racer Fords will be here in 1 week's time when the series rocks up to Summit Point, as well as the return of the Grand Prix Tour. Their second to last round, the championship, will be at Portimao. That'll be one of two broadcasts that we'll be doing at the end of that season, as 2 weeks after that, we'll be able to bring you the season finale at Suzuka as well. Along with that, we have a special event coming up here at the end of the month of May. On May 30th, we'll be able to bring you the Adam W. E-Step Memorial Scholarship Race, an event run by Kenny Step to honor his son, and we got the story about that just the other day on the Formula 4 show. It was fantastic to hear that. Really a touching story about how he's been running this memorial event for many, many moons, and now running it here on iRacing. Of course, you'll be able to catch the action here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. Mustang GT3s out there on the racetrack. You'll be able to see it here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. You'll be able to catch Charles out there on the racetrack for that as well. If you'd like any of the information, scan the QR codes on the screen right now to either join to be a part of that event, watch it here on SMB, or donate to the cause. As for that, though, I think that will just about do it. Our thanks once again to the boss man, Mr. Joshua Wilkie, for making this broadcast possible. And hearing from Guido that the Spec Racer Fords are not covered next week, which I'm going to say au contraire. We want to thank Bobby West for sponsoring next week and the season finale as well here in the Spec Racer Fords. However, funding availability is still open for the Formula Fords as well as the Spec Racer Fords between next week's broadcast and that season finale a little bit later on this season. So if you do want to learn about that, to make these broadcasts possible, join the Slow Motion Broadcasting Discord server and we'll let you get in touch. But as to this broadcast here today for round number 6 of the Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors here at Mugello, that will just about do it. So for myself, Ron Maunz, Charles Boshell joining me in the commentary booth, and Guido Marzucchi working all the cameras, the graphics, and that brilliant track guide in the virtual production hauler, I say thank you all so very much for tuning into the action on Slow Motion Broadcasting today, and we hope to see you all wherever it is in the not too distant future.